Hello friends, and welcome to another video on behalf of Dota Alchemy. We got a new patch, 7.22G, and it is one that everybody's been asking for ever since TI because there are some pretty busted heroes in the meta, and we're going to go ahead and see whether IceFrog actually addressed them. I'm sure he did, but did he address them enough to make significant changes in the meta? So let's go ahead and get into the changes. First of all, basic neutrals now give 5% less bounty. So that basically just means that there's 5% less gold in the jungle across the board for everybody. Now, at face value, this might seem like something that's directed at a hero that tends to spend a lot of time in the jungle, like Alchemist. But in reality, it's more of a nerf to everybody else besides Alchemist, since most of Alch's gold comes from Greevil's Greed. So if you think about it, he's still going to get, basically a full lane creep worth of bounty because of Greevil's Greed at full stacks from the small camp, whereas everybody else will get, 5% less gold. All it does is it means that the game is now just a little bit slower than it was before as far as getting to item timings, and it just further accentuates the importance of things that manifest gold out of thin air, like GPM talents, Hand of Midas, and Alchemist. So in some sense, it's a little bit of a buff to Alchemist in relation to everybody else in the game, despite being a general nerf across the board to any hero that spends time in the jungle. All right, item change. Bracer, magic resistance has been reduced by 1%. Hand of Midas recipe cost has been increased by 100. Chainmail armor reduced by 1 from 5 to 4. Phase boots has correspondingly had its armor reduced from 6 to 5. Medallion of Courage has had its armor reduced from 7 to 6. Solar Crest has armor reduced from 12 to 10, and its recipe cost has been increased by 100. And Sentry Ward restock replenish time has been increased from 70 seconds to 85 seconds. So, all of these changes are relatively minor. Some of them will add up more than others when you consider that a hero like Alchemist or a hero like Kunkka tends to go phase boots and bracers. So some of these heroes that have been buying a lot of these items will feel these impacts more so than others. But these changes are relatively minor across the board. It's just, if you are playing a hero that tends to buy 2 or 3, even 4 of these items in a game, just keep in mind that all of them have been nerfed and nothing else has been touched. So there might be some alternatives that are a little bit better. Of course, this means that Hand of Midas will take a slight, maybe like 1 more use to pay off for itself. So just keep that in mind. I generally don't think that any of these item changes really make that big of a difference. They're just so popular that everybody was buying them every single game. So hero changes. Alchemist, of course, the main hero, I should say, that everybody wanted to get nerfed in this patch. And sure enough, IceFrog has obliged us. He has put on his IRS cap, his tax collector's hat, and he's going to take a little bit more gold out of Alchemist's pocket. He's already taking some gold out of everybody's pocket with the neutral nerf, but he's going to take even more from the Alchemist because it's incredibly clear that he is the king capitalist of the entire Dota world right now, and so he needs to have some of that money taken away. So Greevil's Greed bonus per stack has been reduced from 4 to 3. That means it's going to be harder to get max out at the 32 gold. It's still the same, and this just means that he will have a little bit harder time sustaining the maximum Greevil's Greed bonus, and he'll just get a little bit less along the way as well. So, ultimately, this change is going to just slow him down a little bit. It's probably not going to be that noticeable, though, in the grand scheme of things. He's still going to get more gold than everybody else, and relatively speaking, he's going to continue to have that acceleration factor that he has been enjoying ever since he came into the game, basically. Chemical Rage no longer provides mana regeneration. This is a bit bigger for me because it honestly felt like Alchemist just never had to go back to base. People were skipping Soul Ring. People were not even buying any form of mana regeneration on this hero anymore because once you got low, hey, you just pop Chemical Rage and now you have full mana regeneration or full mana pool in addition to the fact that you just farm faster. You get full mana, you get full health. It's basically your personal fountain, and that was incredibly broken because this hero relies on being out on the map. So if you just give him the tools to never have to come back to the base, it's really hard to stop him. So I think they'll probably get around it by maybe just building a Basilius, maybe a couple clarities here and there. I don't think people are going to go back to Sol Ring because it seems like a little bit too much of an investment for a hero that wants to be, stacking his inventory with big items as quickly as possible. So I really do think that maybe the Bassi route into perhaps going, turning that Sage's Mask into a medallion later on might be the better way to deal with not having this extra mana regeneration. And of course, a couple of clarities here and there will also solve a lot of the issues. Talents, the damage talent level 15 has been reduced to 30, so you choose between 30 damage or 400 health. It's a little bit more of an even choice. Probably you're still going to go for the damage. 30 damage is not too shabby in the grand scheme of things either. And that level 25 talent, the Chemical Rage base attack time has been nerfed by 0.05, so he's not going to be quite as hardcore of a right clicker in the late game. But again, it's such a small amount that it probably won't really be felt. So was Alchemist really nerfed? I guess a little bit. I still think the hero is going to be quite good. Luckily, we've had a little bit more data. We know how to deal with him at this point a little bit better because we've been playing against so much of him. And like I said, I think that this in particular, the no mana regeneration, will make a lot of pub players probably much worse on this hero. But I think it's still definitely a viable carry and probably will continue to be picked in the professional scene until something more significant happens to Alchemist. Brewmaster, Primal Split Storm, Windwalk damage has been increased yet again. I feel like this is second or third time recently that this has happened. Just a little bit of extra damage to Panda. Like basically 100% guarantees kills with Split early on in the game. So cool, good for Brew. Brood Mother, Spin Web Scepter upgrade has been reduced from 12 charges to 10. Didn't this used to be 20 or something ridiculous like that? 10 is still quite a bit, but definitely a nerf. Less mobility, less ability to reset the map and move somewhere else as Brood, kind of like reset up all of your webs. Spin Web Scepter upgrade has been reduced to 20 movement speed as well from 30%. So just slight nerfs to the Ag Scepter, which is essentially a core item on Brood at this point. Chaos Knight, Chaos Strike max crit has been increased at the second, third, and fourth levels. Same at level 1. And level 15 talent has increased the cooldown reduction from 12% to 15%. These are extremely small and kind of irrelevant changes to this hero. To be perfectly honest, I don't think this is a very good core hero. He relies way too much on his ultimate. Maybe as a 3, buying an Aghanim Scepter is pretty good, and I've had a lot of success running him as a 5, but I really think that this hero is quite awful in the current meta as far as carries go. Chen, Holy Persuasion, maximum creep level has been reduced. So the creeps that you can get are worse at, actually, until it's level 4. So that's fairly significant nerf to Chen in the early game. It's going to make this hero a lot. Although you still are probably going to go for the Harpy or the Ghost at level 1 anyway. But it's just going to delay when you can start picking up those more important creeps like the Centaurs and the Tomatoes as well. Divine Favor, heal amplification has been reduced across the board. The active cooldown has been increased across the board, so just nerfs to Divine Favor. The skill is really, really good. Talent increase from minus 30 second Divine Favor cooldown to minus 40 second, kind of to compensate for this cooldown increase in the regular use of the skill. Chen, again, it's one of those heroes that's just, what it does is so unique and so good that it will probably continue to be picked, and that's why it needs to be nerfed, because otherwise it's just going to be picked every single game because it's too good. Clockwork, another buff to the boy, and this one is relatively significant. He gets a better intelligence gain, also starts out with more int, so that's more mana. And power cogs, knockback radius has been increased by 15. Also, he got another 5 movement speed. So this hero, I think he's probably, making his way back in there as a potentially good roaming hero. Roaming may become more prevalent. We don't know. Kills may become more prevalent with the nerfs to the neutral gold. We'll see how things start to develop. But Clock, he's kind of starting to maybe be on that cusp of a very good hero. The meta doesn't favor him that much, but he's gotten buffed a lot to the point where we should probably start paying attention to him. Disruptor, Static Storm maximum damage per second has been increased fairly significantly at the later stages, an additional 50 damage per second at max level, and the radius has also been increased by 50, so it's going to be noticeably bigger. Anytime there's a radius in the circular ability, it's pretty noticeable how much bigger it is. So definitely very good, especially with that AGS when you are muting items and silencing people in a huge radius. Drow Ranger Precision Aura has been increased at all levels very slightly, and the Gust Blind talent at level 15, which is offset against the agility, 14 agility, is now 50%. So that is a pretty hefty blind. I mean, that seems really, really strong, actually. If we look at Troll, Whirling Axes gives you a 60% miss chance. So we're approaching Troll territory there with this blind talent if you were to go, although 14 agility, of course, it's damage and precision aura, so it's kind of hard to pass that one up. Elder Titan Astral Spirit cooldown has been increased from 17 to 23, scaling to 17, so less Astral Spirits early on. He is going to have a little bit harder time bullying people in lane. It's definitely good. And really, really bad news for Elder Titan is Astral Spirit is now dispellable, which means that Oracle is going to own him in lane, and that's a huge problem. Enchantress also destroying Elder Titan with the ability to dispel the Astral Spirit buff. Enchantress, speaking of, base damage has been reduced by 4. That is a fairly large amount. Nature's Attendance heal has also been reduced pretty significantly to where 2 points in the skill now are still worse than the level 1 used to be. It still scales up to where it was, but this definitely means that early level survivability for Enchantress is going to be not nearly as good. You might be able to actually harass her a little bit more out of lane, and certainly you can probably kill her through the wisps, at least at level 1, if not both level 1 and level 2. Impetus damage has been reduced at all levels as well. It's hard to say whether that is significant enough to really make a difference. It's probably still going to be the case where you kind of just need to leave the lane when she hits level 6, just because it is pure damage, and, you know, 2% of the range it's going to equate to maybe like 30 or so a hit, something like that, depending on how far away she is, but it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. Faceless Void agility gain has been reduced from 3.2 to 3. This hero had gotten buffed a ton. It's starting to become the most popular carry that wasn't named Alchemist, and so they're going to kind of nip that in the bud and try and keep him from being too popular too quickly. Chronosphere cooldown has been increased to be 140 at all levels now, so no longer scaling, which just makes Aghanim Scepter that much more important on this hero, since you definitely want the low cooldown Chronosphere later on in the game. Probably still a very good hero. You know, there's the same reasons that he's been good. He's going to continue to be good, but he's just less good overall. Gyrocopter Sidegunner Scepter attack rate has been changed from every 1.1 second to every 1.2 seconds, so slightly less damage for Gyro. This hero had also become quite popular even without an IO tethered buddy. And again, just trying to keep things in balance, it seems. Not let anybody get too far ahead of the game. Though TI meta, obviously there were some heroes that were very far ahead of the meta. Speaking of IO, the infamous IO, the carry IO, looks to have been nerfed significantly. We now have at level 10, Spirit Slow is gone. He gets 45 damage or 90 gold per minute. Both of those are absolutely bonkers for level 10 talents. 90 gold per minute, of course, is insanely valuable with the less gold on the map. Just super good in general. And 45 damage at level 10. Contrast, Alchemist, 30 damage at level 15. I think this is probably the highest damage talent at level 10, aside from maybe like Lion and Dazzle, something like that at this point. So I don't know. Is that enough to knock him out of being a carry or a core? Maybe you just go for the 40 damage, 45 damage now at this point. Level 15 talent from 75 spirits hero damage to spirits by slow. So you can still get the slow, but you can get it 5 levels later, and you won't be able to get the 8 health regen as a result. The slow is still so powerful. You probably are going to go that direction. 8 health regen is really good, but it's not that valuable of a level 15 talent, I feel like. Whereas the slow gives you some utility as well. Level 20 talent changed from 150 gold per minute to 75 spirits hero damage. So you can still hit that crazy timing of having the slow, the ags, and the hero damage, but level 20 is much later in the game, so you're not going to just have IO fountain farming you at like 20 minutes into the game anymore. Is carry IO still viable? Probably, just because I feel like it functions very well and you can pair it with a bunch of really cool heroes in different interesting ways, but it's definitely not going to be that hero that, like, okay, you hit 15, 20 minutes into the game and suddenly the game is just over, because you won't have that same, or it won't have that same massive power spike, though the hero is still definitely good. Keeper of the Light, Blinding Light cooldown has been reduced to 14 at all levels, and the cast range has been increased to scale up to 800, starting at 575. So this skill is really good. Really, really good, actually. Chakra Magic, Monolink, has been increased. God, get rid of that. Nobody wants Monolink to be a thing. But anyway, you can still not use Chakra Magic on your allies or yourself, and you can Monolink other people instead, and it's slightly more annoying now. Level 25 talent increased +2 Will-O-Wisp Flicker to +3. Still hard to pass up the Illuminate heal damage, but Will-O-Wisp Flicker also quite good. The Kunkka talents have been changed a little bit. Level 15 talent has been reduced from 12 HP regen to 10. Oh dear, 2 less. And level 20 talent has been reduced from 25 strength to 20. So both the Torrent talents are slightly more valuable in relation to the sort of like tanky right-click build, but again, Kunkka isn't one of those heroes that was affected by the phase boot change, the bracer change as well. So we'll see whether Kunkka is as strong as he has been before, but probably still a relatively valuable hero just because of how his playstyle fits into the current meta. Lycan, Summon Wolf Scepter spawn amount has been increased from 2 to 3. So you get 3 wolves in a random lane. Hooray, you can't control them and they feed your enemies gold. Sounds probably even worse than before. Although they did change the gold bounty from 20 to 15. So you're feeding slightly less gold per wolf, but you're overall feeding more gold. So thanks for that, Ice Frog. Pair this into an Alchemist and it's pretty good. Just kidding, sounds awful still. Shapeshift cooldown has been reduced from 130 scaling to 80 to 110 scaling to 80. So level 1 Shapeshift, much better. And you can use it more often to take fights or chase people down. Mirana, Sacred Arrow, base damage has been reduced from 80. Wow, this is a pretty significant nerf in terms of the damage. Loses 40 damage at all levels. And the bonus damage has been increased from... Okay, so the bonus damage has been increased by 40. So it's really just more important that you hit long-range arrows than it was before. Other than that, the skill has not really changed. Moonlit Shadow mana cost has been increased by 50. So Mirana is a hero that can struggle with mana just because of how often she's using her spells. That's definitely potentially an issue for support Mirana who might not have the resources to keep her mana high. Night Stalker Void no longer does half damage during the daytime. This is actually a very big deal because it was a 45 damage nuke at level 1 during the daytime, which meant that it was a complete waste of mana. You couldn't even really secure last hits with it. And now you can 100% secure range creeps, which is a very big deal for a hero that is relatively useless in the first 5 minutes and just needs to get levels and as many levels as possible. So I think that is a pretty significant change, and this hero is really, really good other than that. So we'll see whether Night Stalker is completely broken now or not. And I think you'd be surprised at how important it is that you can now use Void just basically to secure the first like 5 range creeps and not get denied. Ogre Magi base damage has been reduced by 4. So in preparation for the Arcana, we're going to make this hero slightly less good, but then probably going to buff him again so that everybody wants to play him when the Arcana comes out. But really, this hero is just super, super good. The base damage is going to be kind of annoying, but he's still super tanky. Still just going to go Bloodlust and hit people in the laning stage. Phantom Lancer Juxtaposed illusion damage has been increased by another 2%. So these illusions are getting pretty dirty, but the hero just doesn't really fit the meta right now very well. So probably won't see much increase in his pick rate. Although a few teams did experiment with him at TI. Puck Jaunt has now been disabled by Root. Wow, that is really bad for this hero. And agility gain has been increased a little bit. Phase shift is no longer disabled by Root. Oh, okay. So you can phase shift out of Roots, but you can't Jaunt out of Roots. I'm not a Puck player. I don't know whether that's better than it was before. I would assume so, maybe, just because phase shift is more reactionary. So you get rooted and you can just phase out of the combo that's coming from the root. And then, although I don't know, it doesn't allow you to escape quite as well. Although if you have max phase shift, then you can still blink out. So we'll have to see. If you're a Puck player, let me know what you think about this change in the comment section below. Talents level 20 increased from minus 8 second waning rift cooldown to minus 9 second, which puts that at what? What is the cooldown of waning rift?
Stay and amuse me.
13 seconds minus 9, so 4 second waning rift cooldown. You can almost have 100% uptime on your silence. That sounds pretty good. Talent. The other talent is 40% illusory orb distance speed to 50%. So both level 20 talents just getting buffed. Probably still go for the orb speed. It depends on the game, I suppose. Shadow Demon Soul Catcher damage has been reduced from 25 scaling to 40 to 20 scaling to 35. This hero has picked a ton at TI. Soul Catcher is really, really good against these tanky heroes, and it's still going to be very good against them, just not quite as good as it was before. And level 10 or 15 talent has been reduced by 5 movement speed from 30 to 25. People were getting this talent a lot just because it helps you get into position to get off those dank Soul Catchers and the saves from disruption. Tiny, another hero that was really, really, really valuable at TI. Base strength has been reduced by 2, so he gets less HP early on. Tiny amount, less magic resistance. Tree Volley damage has been reduced from 120 to 100, so he just does regular attack damage in Tree Volley. And the mana cost has been increased by 50, so that means that a hero who doesn't have a whole lot of mana, like Tiny, will struggle to get a ton of Tree Volleys off. And the cooldown has been increased by 3 seconds as well, so still very good if you can get that Echo Saber, the Daedalus, and pump out that damage, but it'll be less broken than it was to some extent. Undying Soul Rip max unit count has been reduced again, and to compensate for that, they have also made the damage and heal per unit higher as you level it up. So 43 damage / heal per unit. I mean, this change seems fairly irrelevant. It just makes it a little bit easier to do max damage because, I mean, the 14 unit would be, there'd have to be like a creep wave. It'd have to be like a full team fight with creep waves around and zombies to get the max usually. Flesh Golem current health loss per second increased from 7% to 9%. Now, this skill is incredibly good. It is possibly one of the best skills in the game when you consider how much bonus health it gives you, the crazy slow that you get, and the fact that you're doing 9%. If somebody's at full HP, you are literally doing like 4 Necrophoses worth of damage to them per second. I think that this skill is really, really good, and Undying is definitely a somewhat viable hero. Earth Shock damage increased by 25 at all levels. Venomancer, Plague Ward, base attack time has been improved by 0.1 second, and Venomous Gale interval damage has been increased from 10 scaling to 100 to 15 scaling to 105. So an additional 5 damage at each level. Yay. That's it. Pretty small, pretty reasonable patch. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, whether they actually nerfed Alchemist enough, whether they actually nerfed Enchantress enough, whether Tiny, whether Io were nerfed enough. And yeah, what do you think of the patch? Thanks for watching, and we will see you in another video very soon.